Hi everybody, Alan Lepofsky here from Constellation Research. And in this video I want to talk to you today about a trip that I recently took to IBM's design headquarters in Austin, Texas. Now, design. So you may be thinking to yourself, okay, those are the artists that make software look the way it looks. And while it is partially true, the goal of my video today is to explain to you that it's actually a lot more than that. And so the way that I want to explain that is through a sentence or an equation that IBM Design uses to sort of guide the way that they build things. And that equation goes like this: people plus processes plus places equal outcomes. Now, those outcomes are not just software products. Those outcomes can be business workflows or business processes, the way things get done. And I'll talk about that in a minute when we get to outcomes. But let's start with the left-hand side of the equation and begin with people. So IBM Design is now over 1,000 trained design thinkers across 29 different locations around the world, 29 different design labs. Now, what do I mean by design thinking? So design thinking isn't just the art of knowing how something should look on the screen. Design thinking is taking a more overall look at what type of problems are you trying to solve. So instead of just saying, 1 plus 1 equals 2, they sit back and they think about, well, why are we trying to even get to 2? What is the problem that we're trying to solve? So to put that in tangible aspects, in my world, you all know I cover collaboration software. So IBM has been using the design process to rebuild their email client, something they're now calling IBM Verse. And so the design team's mission wasn't just, let's make better email. Instead, design thinking led them to sort of rethink, what are the problems people are having? So attention or focus. And it's things like getting you stopping to think about just the messages that are in email, but to start to think about the people that are in email. Or instead of email being separate from calendar, should email and calendar be sort of the same thing? So design thinking is a way of sort of taking a much higher level look at things. So those people, 1,000 trained designers across all those different design centers, are working at changing the culture, not just of their own department, but of IBM across the board. So that's people. So now let's talk about the process component. The process for building IBM software has changed dramatically since the years when I was there. In the old days, it used to be you had a product manager that would speak to customers, you would get feature requests, you would then prioritize those feature requests, go to engineering, and engineering would build those things. Now you have these designers sort of at the very start of the process working with, instead of product managers, they now call them offering managers, to take a much broader look at what should the software products be doing, which things make sense for the overall product, not for specific customers. So how do we take a whole bunch of feature requests, group them together, and figure out what problems these things are trying to solve? The designers then work with customers, they beta test things, they sort of create prototypes, and then the engineering teams go off and build these products and reiterate on them quickly. And the idea is to build software that is much more user-friendly, much more usable, and makes people much happier to have it. So you have the 1,000 plus people, you have the new process that IBM is doing, and then the third part of the equation is places. So those places I mentioned earlier are the 29 design centers around the world. Currently 29, that number is growing. And again, I was at the headquarters of all of this in Austin. The design of these places is incredible. It's sort of like every dream startup that you could think of. It's huge open floor plans. It's whiteboards everywhere. It's large touchscreens that you can interact with. But the idea behind these places is to allow these teams to intermingle and interact and learn from each other. Sort of, the cliche term serendipitous discovery. Well, while I was there, I saw examples of this. I saw the IBM security division interacting with the IBM collaboration divisions. Now, these used to be two totally different software groups in the past, but now these teams can interact with each other. Boardrooms are open, people can see what each other is working on, and all the executives, there actually is only one real office in the building, and that's all glass, but all the conference rooms are glass, and everybody can see in. So these places are designed to be extremely interactive. Now, not everybody is physically in the same location, so how do these people collaborate virtually? Well, there's two main tools that IBM Design uses. The first is Slack, a group communication tool that you've probably heard of before, and it allows everybody to share information and share files and speak to each other. It keeps those 29 different 29 different labs in touch with each other all the time. The second piece of software that they explained to me they use is called Mural. Now, Mural is an online brainstorming tool. It's sort of like your whiteboard, but taken onto your computer. You can add post it notes, you can embed videos, you can take notes on it, you can do all sorts of different things. You can brainstorm, share ideas, prioritize things, etc. Now, Mural has just taken off incredibly inside IBM and IBM Design. They explained to me that over 1,000 new murals a day are created as teams think about things and brainstorm on things. And this isn't just IBM Design, but it's people across sales and marketing and engineering. Now, something I want to be a little clear about, Mural and Slack aren't, of course, the only tools that these IBM Design people are using. They are in addition to the collaboration tools in the IBM portfolio, such as IBM Verse, Connection, Same Time, etc. I was just pointing out additional tools that they're using. So you have people, you have the people that are trained in IBM design thinking, you have the new processes for building software, and now you have the places where all of these people work, and the end result is these outcomes that I mentioned. Now, the outcomes are not only software products, but also design changes to processes. So let's take a look at some products first. Some of the things that have currently gone through IBM Design are the IBM Watson Analytics products. So all of the things around IBM Watson and big data and creating analytics and dashboards and things. Another familiar with those of you that are, in my coverage space would be IBM Verse. So I mentioned earlier, sort of the redesigned email package. And what have they really done around, Verse? If you think about it, they've changed some huge concepts. So instead of just an inbox with messages in it, along the top of the screen, you see the people that matter most, and along the bottom of the screen, you see your calendar. So you're sort of mixing together contacts and messages and tasks and meetings and things all into sort of a new way of looking at what messaging is like. And so IBM Design has applied a lot of their principles to creating that Verse product. And they're working on future IBM collaboration products as well. Now, but I mentioned IBM Design is about more than just products, and this is what I found perhaps most interesting from the day. Teams are going through the design process that aren't building products, but are doing things like HR onboarding. Or let's take, for example, the employee review process. So when I was at IBM, we had something called the PBC, or Personal Business Commitments. And it's no hidden secret here to say that 400,000 IBM employees did not like this process. It was not effective and it didn't get its job done. So HR went to IBM Design and they mapped out what are their goals? What are they trying to accomplish? How can they do these things better? And as a result of that, they were able to totally revamp the employee review process inside IBM. And from what I hear, it's working much better. Other examples would be things like IBM Bluemix. If you're familiar with IBM's application development platform, that's an entire piece of the IBM portfolio that went through the IBM Design process and came out as an outcome that they want to deliver to customers. Now, while I was there, I saw some prototypes for some really interesting things that unfortunately I can't get into. They're not public right now. But if you think about things like what IBM has been doing with, Twitter data or the acquisition of the weather company, how could they use that sort of information and build new products and new services out of it? And that's all going through IBM Design. So those outcomes are really important. So my main takeaways from the day are that design isn't just artists drawing out what software looks like. IBM is really transforming the way that they build the software and what the software's goals are to do. It's all about design thinking. It's not just about specific feature requests. It's about how do we solve specific problems. And I was extremely impressed with what I saw down there. The energy level, that was perhaps the most amazing thing. I hear lots about what it's like to be in a big company, and as I said, I was there for a long time, and things now are totally different in this division. Everybody is energized and jazzed to really make better software for their customers. They're trying to change the way they work with their customers, improve the way briefing centers work, improve the way they deal with business partners and train business partners. For example, when I was at IBM Connect earlier this year, there were IBM design camps for business partners to learn new ways of thinking. So far, doing really well. I ended the day by asking the head of design, Phil Gilbert, okay, you've had a couple years and I'm telling you all these things that are going great. Well, what are the biggest challenges you have? And right now, Phil says the challenge for the team is to make sure that this is sustainable. So how do you grow and scale this? How do you change the culture of an entire organization like IBM? Not just the 1,000 people plus people that work in IBM Design, but how do you change a company? How do you make it about more than just an individual or more than just a project? How do you really make this happen? And so there's a couple steps that are taking place in this. Things like really raising the career of a designer inside IBM, making it a making design a career path. The way salespeople and marketing people and engineers don't just have jobs, but have very visible career paths. How do you create career paths for designers? And you're going to hear more about that later. And then second, how do you make the results more measurable? How do you find out the customer satisfaction of these new products? And those are the things that IBM is working on. So there you have it. I had a great day if learning about IBM Design, learning about what they're building, and learning about the way they're changing IBM, not just products, but processes and culture. If you have any questions about this, I'd be happy to answer them. And again, signing out, this is Alan Lepofsky from Constellation Research, and I hope you found this interesting and learned a little bit about IBM Design.